April 1942, the Pacific Front burned with uncertainty. Only months after Pearl Harbor, America sought a way to strike back. On the morning of April 18th, aboard the aircraft carrier USS Hornet, 16 B-25 Mitchell bombers stood poised for an unprecedented mission, the Doolittle Raid. These medium bombers, never designed for carrier operations, were crammed onto the deck, their wingtips nearly touching, their crews silently preparing for what many called a one-way trip. Colonel James "Jimmy" Doolittle, a pioneer of aviation, led the mission. Alongside him stood brave men like Captain Ted Lawson and Captain Melcher, tightening straps, checking instruments, and attaching their bombs, one of them carrying a Japanese medal, now re-gifted with grim irony. The sea was rough, the deck short, and the sky uncertain. But as dawn broke over the Pacific, the crew of the Hornet received word that a Japanese patrol vessel had spotted them. They were still hundreds of miles short of the intended launch point. There was no choice. Doolittle ordered the takeoff. Engines roared to life as propellers spun with fury. The first B-25 lumbered forward, waves crashing just below its wheels. With a desperate pull, it lifted into the gray sky. The first U.S. bombers ever to launch from an aircraft carrier. One after another, the 16 bombers took flight, each rising into heavy winds and uncertain futures. As they climbed toward Japan, the crews checked compasses, fuel gauges, and nerves. Hours later, they broke through the clouds over Tokyo, Yokohama, and Nagoya. Japanese civilians looked skyward in disbelief, American bombers over their homeland. Sirens wailed, anti-aircraft guns barked, but it was too late. Bombs fell on military and industrial targets, shattering Japan's illusion of invulnerability. The physical damage was light, but the psychological shock was immense. Tokyo had been struck. In the cockpits, Doolittle's men watched plumes of smoke rise from below before turning west, heading for China with fuel dangerously low. One by one, the B-25s ran out of fuel, their engines sputtering as night fell. Some crews bailed out into darkness over the Chinese countryside. Others crash-landed in rice fields or along the coast. One aircraft diverted to the Soviet Union, where its crew was interned. Many were rescued by Chinese villagers. Some were captured by the Japanese, enduring imprisonment and torture. Yet, despite the losses, every man knew they had changed the course of the war. News of the Doolittle Raid electrified America. For a nation reeling from defeat after defeat, it was a spark of hope, proof that Japan could be reached, that courage and innovation could overcome despair. Back home, Colonel Doolittle, believing the mission a failure because all aircraft were lost, expected to face court-martial. Instead, he returned to a hero's welcome and received the Medal of Honor. The raid's impact rippled across the Pacific. In anger and shock, Japan diverted resources to homeland defense and launched a campaign that led directly to the Battle of Midway, a turning point that shifted the momentum of the war. Today, the Doolittle Raid stands as a symbol of daring ingenuity and unyielding spirit. 16 aircraft, 80 men, and one nation's defiance in the face of impossible odds. The B-25 Mitchells that thundered off the deck of the Hornet carried more than bombs. They carried America's resolve. Their story reminds us that victory often begins with those willing to do what others believe cannot be done. For more legendary moments of courage and sacrifice, subscribe and visit Battles of History.